What's going on, everyone? So, as I'm sure many of you are aware by now, the New York Knicks have traded for OG Anunoby. So, here's the thing. With that trade for OG, solid trade. He was great in his first game. He did foul out, but he did give a solid stat line, played well for them, especially for his first game. I do expect him to continue to find his groove, find his role, kind of find his fit with this team, and should improve. I like the deal for OG. Problem I have is if that's it, if that's all you're doing, doesn't really make any sense, right? To me, this feels like the setup trade that, okay, that was a great move, but what's next? Oh, here it is. And in many people's eyes, it's potentially Donovan Mitchell, right? Maybe it's some other piece that we can't think of right now. I've seen people throw out like a Zach LaVine that doesn't really make sense. I think if you're going to go that route, go like a DeJounte Murray, right? Guy, you can play Brunson at the 2 on offense, let him kind of just be a scorer, and then you have DeJounte Murray for defensive purposes, can defend and be your point of attack guard, and then he can make plays and take some pressure off of Brunson, as well as when Brunson is on the bench, you have that guy that can kind of handle things. Regardless, whatever it is, there's definitely the possibility of a big trade, especially because you got to get rid of Evan Fournier's contract. Right? The last thing you want to do is just let Evan Fournier go for nothing, right? Because you're talking about a guy that's on a very sizable contract, and it's not like the Knicks are going to have a ton of cap space over the next few years to where it's like, oh, well, we could just let him go. And it's like, no, the Knicks are going to be in a very tough cap situation, especially because they're going to have to give OG a new contract. So you have almost a $19 million tradable player, right, that you could go to look to trade, and you might as well get something in return. Now, I think, obviously, if you can make the big home run type deal, right, again, whether it's like a Donovan Mitchell or something like that, then sure, go do that. I'm not really sold on Donovan Mitchell. I don't think Donovan Mitchell makes a lot of sense for the Knicks. But look, I could see the Knicks kind of doing that and being like, okay, let's figure it out after. Let's go get the guy. Let's go get the scorer, right? And then figure it out from there. Or maybe, like I said, maybe it is a DeJounte Murray, whatever. I expect the Knicks to do something and be very active around the trade deadline. But another option is you don't have to do it right now. You don't have to get the home run swing necessarily right this second, but I could see them maybe going to look to replace what Immanuel Quickley provided to the bench. I know that they just basically extended McBride a little bit, right? And the hope is like, okay, well, now that's kind of your guy. That's the guy that can hopefully kind of step in and pick up that type of role for you. But it would be nice. I mean, Immanuel Quickley was giving you, 15 points off the bench, right? You could use that production. So how do you go and what kind of players could you target in that regard? And there's two that really come to mind, in my opinion. There's two that I think make a lot of sense that you could use Evan Fournier to kind of, and obviously draft picks or whatever to go get the deal done. But you could look to, okay, hey, let's go get that production and maybe even a little more. First guy that comes to mind would be like a Terry Rozier, right? I think Terry Rozier would make a ton of sense for the New York Knicks. I think this is a guy that can be an excellent playmaker off the bench, kind of take a ton of pressure off of Jalen Brunson. You could even play the two side by side at times, right? And you have when Brunson goes to the bench, you got a guy that could go off and go give you, 25 points on any given night, right? I mean, he's coming off, I recording this video, the day I'm recording this video, he's literally coming off of a game in which he scored 34 points, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds in 36 minutes of play, right? I mean, if you could get that kind of production, that would be fantastic. Right, that would be a really solid just acquisition for them. And again, you got to do something with Evan Fournier's contract. So go get it like a guy like a Terry Rozier. I think could make sense. Still 29, so still young enough to where you can make an impact. You play either guard role for you, right? Be a guy that can make plays off the bench. This year, he's making $23 million. So you'd only have to make up another $4 million in salary, which I don't think would be hard for them at all. Charlotte, they're not a team that's contending for anything, right? So they'd probably be more than willing to unload a Rozier, right? Rozier is also a guy that, as far as assets wise go, is not going to break the bank. Like, you're not going to have to give up 3 firsts to go get a Terry Rozier. You might not even have to give up a first. Like, right? You may be able to get away with a couple seconds or like a heavily protected first or something, right? And just go get a guy that can come in, provide, some shooting, some scoring, guy that can just put some pressure on opposing defenses. And he's having a great season this year. The last 4 years, he's averaged around 20 points per game. This season, as I mentioned, he's averaging around 24 points per game. And then from the field, he's shooting 52% from 2-point range on 11.5 attempts. And then from 3-point range, he's shooting 37% on 7 attempts, right? He's taking a lot of shots, don't get me wrong, this season. So you'd have to make that adjustment to kind of tailing it back a little bit. But look, this is a guy that I do believe, even in like a limited bench role, could give you a lot of the same production, if not more, of what Immanuel Quickley did. He's also a veteran guy that has a good understanding, right? He's a guy that gets after it. Scary Terry, right? He's a guy that you're never going to question his effort. You're never going to question his impact. He's a guy that, especially going up against bench players and stuff, like, this is a guy that could absolutely go off, absolutely just give you some consistency in that offensive area. I think that would be, again, a very impactful move and could make a lot of sense for the Knicks. And then another guy that kind of comes to mind immediately when I was kind of thinking about this stuff is Jordan Clarkson. Now, I'm not as big on Jordan Clarkson, if I'm being honest, right? Because Jordan Clarkson can be very inefficient, right? And that's kind of my issue with him. But good size, kind of, again, give you a very similar Immanuel Quickley type production, right? He's a guy that is available for trade, who could come in and really fill that role. He's coming off of a first ever triple-double off the bench since like 1983 for the Utah Jazz, and like first triple-double since like 2008 or something like that. And this year he is on a player exercised option of $23 million. So again, roughly the same as Terry Rozier. If I'm being honest, I would rather look to go get Terry Rozier than a Jordan Clarkson, but, you reunite him with Julius Randle, right? Maybe being with the Knicks, maybe he'd be more than willing to kind of work with you on a contract, right? Because I don't think he's worth $23 million a year. Personally, I don't. Some people may, but I think, if you could get him to around like $18 million, I think then that would be great. That'd be much better, right? Because again, the Knicks got to do something. You're basically locked up long term anyway, so you might as well do something. This is a guy, 6th man of the year type player, guy that is coming off the bench. He started 19 games for Utah, but he's still a guy that can easily come off the bench, play his role. You can play him alongside Jalen Brunson, as I mentioned. This season, he's averaging 17 points. He's averaging 5 assists, 1 steal, and 3.6 rebounds per game. Shooting the free throws, the best he has in the last 4 years. He's shooting 87% from the free throw line, which is good. He's shooting better from the free throw line, right? You want him, especially the type of player he is, just being that athletic guard that get to the basket, right? Generate some fouls, get to the free throw line. You want him to be able to knock it down on an efficient clip. It's not like he's been shooting under 80% anyway, but to go from the last 2 years, he was around 82%, to jump that up to 87%, that's massive, right? And then 2-point range, he's shooting 47% from 2, but 3-point range, he has been abysmal this year. He's shooting 29% from 3-point range on 5.8 attempts. So that's not good. But this is a guy that has had good years shooting the 3, right? He had that season with the Cleveland Cavaliers where on 5.5 attempts, he shot 37%. Another year with Utah in 2019-2020 where he shot 36.6%. So basically 37% on 6 attempts. But you want to see him hopefully kind of get back to not 29%, which is my concern. But again, he's a guy that would probably be relatively cheap, right? A guy that I don't think would cost you multiple firsts or anything like that, right? Obviously, again, if the Knicks can find that home run deal, then you find that home run deal. But if you're settling for like a Jordan Clarkson or a Terry Rozier just to get off of Evan Fournier's contract and just get some piece, right? Both of these guys I do think would still be very tradable. Right? Don't break the bank on trying to acquire these guys. I think it's something that could be very feasible and give you that production that Quickley was giving you off the bench. I mean, Quickley was in the running for potentially six man of the year. He was like third behind Tim Hardaway Jr. and Austin Reeves. Immanuel Quickley was third in the MVP ladder, right? Or six man of the year ladder, right? So, maybe Jordan Clarkson, you could have him kind of play that role and fill in and give you, 15 points a game. I think he's a guy that could do that. Again, I kind of lean towards Terry Rozier. That would be my pick. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Would you go with either of these guys? Do you think, no, wait, go do something else? Or do you think that there's another position of need? Again, you're not going to get much for Terry Rozier or for Evan Fournier, right? So if you could get a Terry Rozier, you could get a Jordan Clarkson, I think that would be very, very valuable, right, for you, and actually give you a player that you can actually play and utilize rather than some guy that's just kind of, I think, Evan Fournier's played one game this year, right, for the Knicks, so he's completely in the doghouse with Tibbs. Evan Fournier's been very expressive on his opinions with that, so if you could turn him into a Clarkson or a Rozier, I think that's a home run. But do you feel the same way? Again, how do you feel? What your thoughts are? I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate you all. See you in the next one. Thank you.